everyone today to our Digital Transformation Flexible Fund webinar, focusing on what is big data. It's in partnership with the Clinton Leadership Institute and also Glometrics. So just perhaps as more people are joining us this afternoon, I'd just like to tell you a little bit more about the webinar series. So as I say, it is in collaboration with the Clinton Leadership Institute and also the Digital Transformation Flexible Fund, or the DTFF, as I'll refer to it from now on. It's also in collaboration with InvestNI as well. And the purpose of these particular webinars is really just to support the digital transformation journey of our local micro and small businesses within Northern Ireland, and helping you to think a little bit more around the advanced technologies that are available to you in the digital age. So as I say, we have a variety of different webinars over the next couple of weeks. So today is obviously what is big data. Next week, we'll be focusing on IoT and smart tech. Following that, it's robotics and how they deliver process automation. Then into November, we'll be looking at driving business improvements with AI and machine learning, followed by customer experience with immersive technology, understanding blockchain in supply chain, and then finally on the 26th of November, we'll be closing up with how to plan and build your digital strategy. If you're interested in getting involved in any of these webinars, please do scan the QR code there at the top of the screen, and that'll take you to a landing page where you can sign up for any or as many of these webinars as you like. If you don't get a chance just to scan it now, I'll be showing you this slide again towards the end of our presentation. All right, so perhaps a few introductions, where I realise I haven't introduced myself and my co-presenter yet. So my name is Grace Carson. I'm a lecturer in marketing at Queen's Business School, and I've been with the school perhaps for longer maybe than I care to admit. But my research area really is focusing on the usage of market intelligence and big data within the small business context, particularly in the food industry. Sort of been looking at that over the past couple of years. So hopefully a couple of relevant links to what we're going to be talking about today. And I am absolutely delighted, of course, to welcome my co-host this afternoon as well, Hannah Magorian, data analytics executive at Glometrics. And Hannah is also a Queen's Business alumni. So it's lovely to be presenting with you, Hannah, this afternoon. And thanks so much for your time and coming to share your insights.
Thank you, Grace.
So I suppose just before we get into discussing big data and big data analytics this afternoon, I'd just like to give you a little bit of an overview and a background to the DTFF. So it is a demand-led grant scheme that is aimed at addressing the financial barriers to the adoption of new and emerging digital technologies within our small and micro businesses. And really, it is designed to kind of look at stimulating and enabling this concept of business transformation, or digital transformation, if you like, which is defined as the integration of digital technology into all areas of business, or a large proportion of your business. And that ultimately fundamentally changes how you are operating and how you deliver value to your customers. So it kind of is thinking more about that transformation element as opposed to digitization of your existing operations. And we'll chat a little bit more about that later on. So it is a 7.5 million capital grant programme, and funding is available to eligible applicants from a minimum project value of £5,000 right up to £20,000. Now, it does not provide support or assistance for any of the sort of idea generation phase, or coming up with ideas as to how you would use emerging technology. Rather, it is very much focused on the funding for the hardware, the software, the technologies themselves. So the ideation phase must come before you're actually applying for this grant. It is delivered by all local authorities, which you can see surrounding the slide here, and is supported by Invest Northern Ireland. So in terms of eligibility then, so your business must be based in Northern Ireland. It has to be a micro or a small business, so that's up to 49 employees. You should be VAT registered and actively trading for at least 12 months. It is open to all sectors except primary agriculture, forestry and fisheries. And it is advised that you have a digital transformation plan or equivalent. Now, if that's not something that you have currently, please do not worry. As part of the DTFF application process, you will be required to actually create your own digital transformation plan, because that is actually what your project is sort of scored on. So all capital investments that are actually funded from the DTFF must then be aligned to your digital transformation plan. Your sort of project that you're focusing on as a part of your application must be centered on one or more of the 6 advanced digital technologies that are actually covered as part of the DTFF. And they're covered in all the variety of webinars that we're running over the next couple of weeks. So it's inclusive of your emerging technologies such as AI, immersive technologies, and machine learning, robotics, cobotics, etc. So the eligible expenditure there then must be capital equipment. So that's your hardware, your devices, or your software systems. And finally, then all applicants must complete the mandatory state aid declaration at the application stage, just to indicate any previous funding that you may have received. So just to give you a little bit further insight as to how the grant process actually works. So stage 1 would really be considered the pre-application briefing section. So, I mean, that kind of includes today, where we're talking about particular technologies, but it also includes our pre-briefing sessions that normally occur in and around the opening of a call for applications. And at those pre-briefing sessions, we really engage a little bit more in detail with the type of technologies and also around what is expected of you as part of the application process. So do encourage you to come along if you are interested in hearing more. That then moves into stage 2. So if you are interested in the application process, please apply with your expression of interest. In doing that, there is sort of a requirement to identify what technology you're actually interested in purchasing and focusing on how that helps to advance digital transformation within your business, and that needs to be very clear at that stage. The expression of interest will be reviewed, and you may then receive indication that you may formally apply for funding as part of the grant process. So as part of stage 3, then you will be taking your initial expression of interest and adding further detail in line with the specific criteria from which we would actually judge your application. And at the pre-briefing sessions, we give plenty of information around what that criteria actually is. Your application is then assessed as part of stage 4. And you will then receive indication in stage 5 as to whether or not you have been successful. So if you have been successful, you will receive your letter of offer, and following that, then you can move in to actually purchasing your technologies, the implementation, and then claiming that funding back. So call 4 then for the DTFF will run in and around February, March time of next year. So a good bit of time for yourselves to think about the technologies that you're interested in and preparing yourself for the application. If you are interested in hearing a little bit more about those pre-briefing sessions, or you just need further details around expressing your interest, please do scan the QR code there on the screen or head over to the DTFF website that is also linked there. But just to let you know, expression of interests are now always open, so you can apply whenever you feel ready. So just a brief agenda then for our webinar today. So first of all, I'm going to be talking a little bit more around this concept of digital transformation and what it really means. I'll then move on to take a look at big data. What is it? What are its key characteristics? Does it have any key uses within small businesses? Potential barriers to utilisation, and then finally thinking about the idea of big data operationalisation and how you actually do that, perhaps specifically within the context of a small business. I'll then hand over to Hannah, and she's going to review some big data analytics case examples. I think she's got 3 or 4 for you today, sort of looking at different sizes of businesses, different experiences, just to give you a comprehensive overview. Then I'll move on to giving you a little bit of further advice or signposting to support and help, and then hopefully we'll have a little bit of time for a question and answer session at the end. So I think it's important to sort of start with reviewing this definition of digital transformation in order just to make the meaning clear and to help you align with the concept of digital transformation rather than perhaps digitization, and to help you better define the scope of your proposed projects for your application. So there are levels, within sort of a digital spectrum, if you will, where you have your digitization relating very much to converting just your analog standard information to your digital format. And then you have your digitalization, where you're using your digital technologies to change business processes. So, for example, engaging with cloud-based document management systems to house your business records. But those 2 levels really aren't considered to be the level of transformation that this grant is actually looking for. They're very much focused on that transformation element and reimagining sort of your entire business model with digital at the core. But I think it's also important to highlight that digital transformation is very much a cultural change. And it requires organizations to kind of think about what the status quo is within their businesses, where their challenges and pain points lie, and then, be open to experimentation and perhaps even comfortable, with the idea of making mistakes and a few blips and challenges and perhaps even the dreaded word of failure in some instances. But there are key components that relate to this cultural change, and you can see them on the screen here, and they're tightly interlinked. So with the digital transformation process, we generally see some structural changes where perhaps there's reorganization within teams for more collaboration. You will perhaps see a cultural shift whereby there's more encouragement for learning about digital technologies and transformation, maybe embracing the likes of data-driven decision making, particularly within the context of our big data discussion today. You'll see competency changes. Obviously, as you're learning, you're maybe upskilling, you're reskilling that workforce to enhance the digital proficiency. And finally, then we look at that digital infrastructural change, and that relates very much to the implementation of those new and advanced technologies. So all in all, digital transformation, not just about the technology, very much, a holistic change in how your business is thinking and building that clear vision to where you want to go. But I'd just like to highlight, if people on the call today are at a very early stage of digital transformation, or perhaps you're more seasoned in that journey, the DTFF application process will support both. It doesn't matter if you're at the beginning or sort of closing in on your digital transformation process. So then what is big data? So it refers to our complex and voluminous sets of information, and you're sort of comprising structured data, which is much more formalized, it's organized, it's more intuitive, easier to engage with, but then you have your unstructured element. So that information doesn't really have a predefined organization, so tends to be very numerically heavy, very text heavy, and difficult to engage with. And finally, then your semi-structured element, which really incorporates both. Now, big data does have a variety of distinguishing features, particularly when we compare the traditional data that we may have been used to, in decades prior. So that typically was very structured, quite manageable with conventional tools such as your standard Excel. But our big data today encompasses much larger, diverse data sets that really at points can exceed capability in traditional processing methods. And then finally, you've got your big data analytics, which is much more about analyzing and really deriving those important key insights from our complex data sets. And in saying that, I guess I do very much admit that big data does have its complexities. and maybe even perhaps seems intimidating to some, but it can be applied and carried out at various scales, particularly for small businesses. So you may wish to start small and get your data ready and then gradually expand your capabilities. But one final point, and I think this just kind of comes from recent research, is that sometimes within SMEs, big data can be perceived as conflicting that intuitive decision making or experience that the owner manager has. But I think it's important to highlight that, that intuition can very much be supported by the insights derived from big data and can have a substantial impact when properly utilized. But knowing how to utilize big data, again, is a journey as well. So it requires some understanding of data characteristics. So let's talk a little bit around these particular characteristics. So we have the 6 V's. It used to be the 3, 4, 6. There may be more now today, but I'm going to focus on sort of the ideas of volume, variety, velocity, veracity, variability, and also value. I don't wish to go into too much depth here, but just to sort of touch on a couple of points. Big data comes in vast volumes, but even small businesses do generate significant data through, your transactions, through your customer interactions, your operations, even your social media. So, it may be relevant to kind of start by identifying what data sources are most valuable or of interest to you. The variety then of big data really relates to the diverse data types that you have within the firm. So thinking perhaps about how you can maybe integrate different types of data, again, giving you that more holistic view of kind of what's occurring in the business. Your velocity relates to the speed of data, and in this day and age, it is constant. So we have access to real-time data, providing you with additional agility to kind of respond very quickly to market changes. And I think small businesses perhaps do that even better than larger firms, which kind of struggle with more rigidities in their firm. Veracity, sort of ensuring that data accuracy, and we'll come on to that in a minute. And variability then relating to how data changes sort of over time. But I think value is probably the most important point on the screen here, and certainly most important for SMEs, but larger counterparts as well. Because really the ultimate goal of using data is kind of to derive these actionable insights and then prioritizing value to keep data initiatives at the fore of your business goals and aligned with your business goals. And I think too, if there's any marketers on the call today or anybody who really champions the cause of big data, understanding its value really helps to justify the investment and the cost and the efforts associated with these solutions. So I think that element of value is really key. Now, just thinking very briefly about some key uses of big data within SMEs or small businesses. And again, I don't want to look at each and every one, but I'd like to just focus in on driving efficiency, improving that customer experience, and also this idea of confident decision making, because it kind of links in to those key attributes that are really important for small businesses. So your operational excellence, satisfying your customers, and then that kind of strategic decision making, really. So in terms of efficiency, big data can allow you to optimize your operations just by identifying where your pain points may be in your supply chain, identifying inefficiencies, and where opportunities for improvement may lie. And that ultimately can reduce costs for you. In terms of improving that customer experience, then you can leverage data around customer behavior, their preferences, some of their feedback or user generated content through your social listening. And from that, you're personalizing interactions, you're maybe enhancing products, you're building stronger relationships. And finally, thinking then about that confident decision making. The aim of big data is to empower owner managers and those who are leading in decision making, and providing some insights that may even help you level out the playing field with larger competitors or more aggressive competitors. So hopefully, as we were talking through those examples there, you're able to identify that concept and idea of value that we just mentioned there, and see how sort of actionable insights can actually drive business competitiveness. But also when we're thinking about key uses of big data, I think it is really important to realize that big data does formulate sort of like a critical foundation upon which other advanced technologies are actually built. Because it provides that volume and that variety that's needed for these other technologies. So, if we take machine learning, perhaps, for example, those algorithms really are only as good as the data that they're perhaps built upon. So poor data leads to sort of poor results, that kind of rubbish in, rubbish out idea. So understanding your data infrastructure in the first instance is really important, might help prevent those costly mistakes, and certainly something to consider prior to your application to the DTFF. So invest your data foundation to unlock the full potential of a variety of advanced technologies. So to do that, you might want to think about assessing your current situation, identifying any gaps that you may have, developing a data management strategy, or at least having that conversation. It may seem that that's a very formalized thing to do, time consuming, understandably, but just opening that conversation so that you can explore advanced technology options. Now, there are some challenges, of course, to the use of big data. And I have some examples here. So a lack of perhaps clear business objectives or use cases for how or why you're using this type of information, reduced capabilities, and that also links in, I think, to restricted time, where perhaps you are very much focused on firefighting those short-term issues. And maybe even a lack of ability to kind of select what suitable data solutions you need. There's so much out there, but being able to identify that is important. So is it storage? Is it customer related? Is it analytics? Are you more focused on integrating the data that you have? Are you trying to forecast? So being able to identify what solution you require can be complex. But I think that the final couple of challenges there very much relate to the idea of data quality, veracity, integrity, and having sort of concerns around inconsistency and unreliability of data. So I'd like to talk just briefly a little bit more about that. So data integrity is indeed a challenge and a barrier for all sides of businesses, but it is very much important to consider. And while this slide outlines our key benefits, it's also good to recognize that achieving data integrity is an ongoing journey. It's not a destination, and it will, need evaluation. I have highlighted some key points that relate to data integrity around, ensuring your quality, trying to prevent those costly errors, having conversations around compliance, engaging with that real-time operation. And then, of course, yes, having those conversations around data governance and also your compliance there as well. But I think perhaps getting into the depths of the technological approaches to actually achieving data integrity is perhaps outside the remit of our conversation today, and I think perhaps outside of the time that we have. But just to mention, in practice, maintaining that integrity is linked to the digital transformation culture shift. So it's not just about implementing those technological solutions. It's kind of about fostering a company-wide mindset where everybody is looking after the quality of data. Now, for small businesses, this doesn't mean that you need to be implementing highly complex systems. That compliance and governance just basically starts with very clear policies and practices that are perhaps move and shape as your business grows, and perhaps even seeking external advice and help around that governance and compliance. So just to mention as well our operationalization of big data. So how does big data actually work inside a small business? And I think it is very much a stepwise process. And again, a journey. It's a learning process, but it is helpful to kind of start initially with identifying those objectives for data use and aligning them with your specific business goals. So identifying and focusing on those high impact areas that are important to you as a business and ensuring those objectives are measurable and time bound in some sense. Um, you may also then want to move forward into the next step, which would be to find your data sources. So looking internally, what do you have existing within your business? And then measuring that against identifying relevant external sources. Following that, you might want to take a look at what you're trying to prioritize, in terms of your quality, your accessibility, etc. Moving on to organizing that data, so storage, integrity, the things that we have just had those conversations about. That data analysis method. So what kind of analytics do you need? Are you looking at something that's more descriptive? You've got questions around what's happened in the past, or is it more diagnostic? You want to know why something has happened, so you're reaching out to data for answers in relation to that. Or are you going down a much more predictive and prescriptive element where you're trying to forecast and then prescribe yourself with tactics as to how you can actually tackle those situations or scenarios? So think about what kind of analytics you need and essentially what it is that you're trying to achieve. You may want to collaborate on that and spend some time interpreting results together and really trying to start to foster that data literacy and that culture. And so that may mean, a little bit of training or again, reaching out to that external support. Finally, it relates to sort of drawing your conclusions. Can you create clear, actionable insights that are tailored to the original objectives? And then can you report the success of that back through the business using a reflective approach? So I'm just a little bit conscious of time here, and I'm keen to pass over to Hannah, who has probably the very worthwhile element of this presentation within the use cases. But just briefly to mention, there are a variety of different data types that may be suitable for you. And I guess I can't tell you what type of data is suitable within your business. You yourselves will know that best. But as I say, there's a variety of types. So is it customer analytics? That you're wanting to figure out more about customer behavior? Do you have a focus perhaps more so on efficiency and that operational side of the business? Perhaps maybe you're wanting to go into forecasting, so it's more predictive analysis you're looking for. Or as you see last there on the table, the decision making and strategic planning element. Are you looking for information that's going to inform decisions around new product development and launches or market expansion or resource allocation? But probably worthwhile to note that a lot of these data types are very much interconnected. So for example, if you are looking at customer analytics, that very much feeds into predictive analysis, where sort of in turn then you're enhancing that level of decision making. So just before I hand over to Hannah, just some key takeaways from my side of things and our session on big data. What is it? So first and foremost, demonstrating an understanding of digital transformation can really set apart your DTFF application. So think about what digital transformation really looks like within your business and how that technology may feed into it. Identifying which aspects of big data are most relevant to your business, understanding that big data does serve as a cornerstone of different advanced technologies, although still considered an advanced technology within itself. There are challenges when it comes to the implementation of big data in a small business, absolutely, of course, but we do advise that you start small. Begin with your focused, your high impact data initiatives that are again aligned with your business needs. You can operationalize that data through a formal stepwise process that we've just covered there, and that will help to support the development of that data-driven culture. And finally, then, being aware that having data in the business is not a competitive advantage in itself. It's very much a static resource. So it does need action in order for it to be an enabler of digital transformation. All right, Hannah, that's me. So over to you.
Thanks, Grace. Just to reintroduce myself, in case anyone missed the start of this, I'm Hannah. I'm the Digital Analytics Executive at Glometrics. If you're not familiar with us, we're a analytics agency based in Belfast and Dublin, and we're in our 10th year of operation now. So our aim really is to take our clients along with us and support them on that digital journey. And we work with a wide range of clients from banks, universities, to online only e-commerce businesses and startups as well. But those data principles and the kind of data fundamentals, they stay the same across all various types of clients. So we're pretty Google focused. We were the first Google marketing platform partner in Ireland, and we're certified in Google Analytics, Google Tag Manager, Looker Studio, and Google Optimize. But we do work with other platforms as well. We're a Microsoft advertising partner too. But we also work across different advertising platforms. So your LinkedIn ads, Meta ads, and SEMrush as well. And more recently, we work with BigQuery, which is a data warehouse that kind of houses those big data sets. Just go on to the next slide there, Grace. So I'm just going to talk you through the analytics life cycle. So you may be wondering what that is. This is basically the data journey from data collection and tracking to reporting and analysis. So this is kind of the process that we would go through with our clients. And data is really at the heart of all of this and every process that we kind of go through, every step. If you are looking at these product names and kind of panicking because you're, as I mentioned, we're very Google focused. A lot of these, are similar. We've still got those same data principles across different platforms. So your Google Analytics might be quite similar. And a Looker Studio is quite similar to like Power BI, for example, if that is something you're more comfortable using. But I'll start at the start with our tracking and our Google Tag Manager. So Google Tag Manager is a tag management system that lets you kind of track interactions and conversions across your site. So this is really important for you to get that data integrity, your dependable data that you know is correct. An example maybe of interactions across your site that you might want to track could be video views, a clicks to a certain CTA, perhaps some of your e-commerce tracking, of course. If you're an e-commerce business, you can see when a client or a user has viewed an item, has added to cart, and then has made a purchase as well. Or even something like a contact form. Google Tag Manager is great because it doesn't require any kind of complex knowledge of coding. And it means that an agency like us can kind of keep updating your tracking as your site changes without having to involve developers. So your next kind of stage in the analytics lifecycle is your data collection. So I'll be focusing on Google Analytics. So that is a measurement reporting analysis tool. The latest iteration of that is GA4. So it is pretty much the front end of those big data sets, but in a more user-friendly way. So Google Analytics splits your data into dimensions and metrics. So your dimensions might be, for example, grouping variables like what country your users are coming from, what device they're using, what acquisition channel they found you through. And then your metrics would be your users, your sessions, which are your website visits, maybe your conversions, your revenue. And Google Analytics as well has a lot of built-in reports that you can kind of dig into your data, as well as some exploration reports that you can use to build a funnel to kind of see pain points or a path exploration to kind of follow your user journey. So that takes us to reporting. We use Looker Studio, and this means you can get much more customizable reports. So you've gone from your built-in reports with Google Analytics to exactly what you want to see in your dashboards in Looker Studio. So that could be different dashboards and reports for different members of your team. One team member might just want a bit of an overview, and the next might want a really in-depth exploration. Here at Glowmetrics, we really champion data visualization. It is so important to be able to interpret your data efficiently, and it comes with a lot of great benefits. So once you're able to kind of see that data laid out in front of you, you can make those faster data-driven decisions, and probably most importantly, identify when there's anything going wrong, any errors or problems, as well as trends that you can use going forward. So you've kind of got that data, what actions can you do with this? So there's a few different things we can kind of use, actionable insights. So you might want to set up marketing campaigns, kind of target potential customers a little bit better and more efficiently. Set up some custom audiences based on user behavior. This is really great for remarketing. As well, now you're with machine learning algorithms and AI, you're able to use predictive audiences. So you can better optimize your spend and ultimately, hopefully, improve your return on ad spend. Another actionable insight that you might want to take now, you have a bit more of an overview on who your customers are is improving that user experience. So we would normally do this through some A/B testing, or maybe personalized experiences then based on audiences or customer segment, ultimately hoping to optimize those conversion rates. So your observation and your analysis are really those iterative insights. And Grace touched on this already, that it is so important to be willing to fail and to learn from your failures. But every kind of new project that you undertake with your data, you can be thinking, were there any other bits of data that we should have looked at? Can we look at this in a different way? Can we ask any different questions? Pretty much digital transformation is a really long process, but you can always learn from it. And then that knowledge is passed down then through training that we do, and that knowledge sharing, as well as always upskilling ourselves, that any new updates, we are making sure we're on top of that. So as I said, forming a digital culture can be a long process, but it is an iterative one. It's never ending really. There's always more to do, but that doesn't mean that you can't see the benefits of it really quickly. So a few little things that you might want to check off whenever you're thinking about your data journey. Your data health. So is your tracking still relevant? Has your site changed? Maybe your business objectives changed. So you don't necessarily want to be tracking the same things. Other things are more important. Data quality is key. Is your data correct? Is it telling us what we think it is? Are you looking at the right metrics? That's really key to getting that dependable data that you can base your decisions on. So optimization and innovation is all about improving your experience for your users. So what opportunities are there to not just keep things as they are, but to keep striving for better. Um, your Q&A approach, we want to understand X to do Y. What is the best process? It's really important to keep asking yourself these questions throughout and not be stuck to a specific path. And constant learning. So every day is a school day. And a little quote at the bottom there: data is useless without context. And that is so true. All of these steps in the analytics lifestyle are about contextualizing your data. So we're going to go on to a few case studies here, or use cases. We've tried to think about giving use cases from various different sizes of business who are at various sort of stages of their data journey, as well as kind of honing in on their key question or their objective that they were looking for whenever they came to us to undertake this work. So our first case study is an e-commerce business that was in the tourism industry in Ireland. And this business was really like starting from zero in their kind of digital journey. So they were looking for a full data transformation to really get them up and running. So how we did that was an implementation of a robust GA4 setup. So that included tracking with Tag Manager, and importantly for them, some e-commerce tracking. We got their BigQuery accounts, Google Search Console, and a Google Ads account set up, and all of that integrated with their Google Analytics account. So you can really unify that data and pull everything together, and then visualize that data then through Looker Studio. So the results then for them, they now have a significantly enhanced understanding of their customer journey. And that means if they wanted to go forward in that analytics lifestyle, that data journey, they can look for opportunities to make some of those UX improvements and continue to optimize. They now have effective data collection facilitated by Tag Manager, GA4, and BigQuery. And that means that they can really make those data-driven decisions because they know that they can trust their data. They've got that data integrity. And they also have an increased overview of their engagement on the site across their e-commerce, so they know what their most popular products are, the different types of audiences, user behavior, how people are interacting with their site, and sources where their users are coming from. So all of that gives you a better understanding of your return of investment of digital channels and means you can make better marketing decisions then going forward. Just a very nice little quote here from this client. So it means that they can kind of keep doing what they do best. I think they felt that once they were maybe a bit intimidated by sort of big data transformation, but now they're like, no, actually, like we can continue to do what we do best, just with greater knowledge. So our second use case is an e-commerce business that were mainly operating through Ireland, UK, and the US. So their really key objective was that they were looking for data integrity. They needed to ensure that they had trustworthy data across multiple teams and stakeholders. So the actions that we undertook for them were a comprehensive review of their tracking practices and their configuration, introduce them to some more advanced reporting tools and data storage, and really importantly, data visualization and tailored reports for each team. So they weren't getting kind of bogged down with data that wasn't relevant to their team. And we were able to set this up as an automated process. So they would get emails off their relevant dashboard once a week. And it means that they're saving so much time just being able to have this streamlined report there and not having to go dig to find the data that they need. And the results for them, they found that their marketing efficiency was significantly better across the team. They actually decreased their cost per acquisition by nearly a quarter. They increased their return on ad spend by 28%. Their target conversion rate was exceeded, and also their revenue went up. And then they were able to use the fact that they had this real data integrity that they could really depend on to kind of begin that process of looking to additional markets to expand. So yeah, they were able to access key metrics with very little effort and then review the previous week's performance. And this was all an automated process, so they can really harness the full potential of their data. And I'll take you through this same business and how they went about expanding operations then. So they used the data that we had kind of provided for them earlier to look at expanding operations into additional countries and markets throughout Europe. So we supported the development and the launch of new localized websites for each of those markets, compared the data across markets with a centralized approach to tracking and analysis. So using the same data structure for each of those markets, as well as analyze their demographic data, their cart abandonment rates, and their user behavior. So this means that we were able to see when users from certain countries were adding items to their cart and then dropping off later when they realized that actually this business didn't ship to their country. And all of this supported their market research to say that actually expansion was a good idea into these certain markets because they could see that there was a demand for it already. So yeah, again, very little effort to kind of monitor their performance on a global scale. So this next case study is really focusing on that optimization and user experience. So this client is an online-only e-commerce business. They're currently across Ireland, UK, and a lot of Europe. So they really wanted to improve their user experience on the website and hopefully improve their conversion rates. So we had a look at implementing some additional data tracking through the purchase journey, as well as visualizing a funnel of the performance of the checkout, so we can identify areas of high potential, and means we could see where users were dropping off in that kind of purchase journey. And so we established a testing framework and process to run live A/B experiments. We were focusing on CTAs, such as buy now, add to cart, and the checkout funnel. And we found that something really simple like changing the copy of a CTA or even just the color led to really big changes in results. So on the back of the data that we collected through those A/B tests, they ended up simplifying the checkout process, and this reduced exits by 19%, which is huge. They achieved a 90% increase in their click-through rate of primary CTAs, which just kind of shows you how important thinking about the copy of your CTAs or even the color can be. Their completed transactions increased by 9.6%. And they were able to use custom audience targeting from test sessions to drive marketing campaigns. And all of this set the groundwork then for ongoing testing and conversion rate optimization. As we said earlier, it's an iterative process. It just keeps going. You can just keep optimizing. So as this quote says, the testing process highlighted that small changes can lead to really big results. And you never know what might make a really big change to your user experience. So our last case study here is a global nonprofit organization, and they focus on sustainable employment solutions across 18 countries. And each of those 18 countries had its own unique data collection and marketing needs. So they were really looking for a centralized GA4 solution to kind of revolutionize their data collection. They had been using Universal Analytics, which, in case anyone doesn't know, is the previous iteration of Google Analytics. So they were looking to move then to GA4, which is the newer version. And their previous Universal Analytics setup was very fragmented, which meant it was really difficult to gain insights on that global scale to global user behavior and overall campaign performance. So they were really looking to improve their data consistency. So we undertook a comprehensive audit of their existing analytics setup, delivered a global measurement plan that would apply across all their markets, and migrated them from UA to GA4 and implemented that. And the results for this client, since we had eliminated those inconsistencies in the data and really unified their data collection process, that meant that they had improved their data accuracy and reliability. They knew they had dependable data they could trust. This big data implementation actually won an award for best big data implementation. They were able to get a really holistic view of their user behavior across all 18 countries that they hadn't been able to do before, since everything was so fragmented. So that made it much easier for them to identify those trends and patterns across a global scale and not just within their individual countries. They were able to get really detailed insights. So that means that they could utilize personalized marketing at scale via audience segmentation. And these kind of data-driven insights set the groundwork again for optimization of site content. And all of that will lead to increased traffic and engagement. So yeah, auditing their multi-country analytics and GTM setups meant that they could better understand analytics from the Google perspective. So all of those examples are just snapshots of the digital transformation journey. So they're all different industries and they're all at different kind of stages of those journey, but they all fall somewhere within this cycle. And really now with emerging technologies like machine learning or AI, no one can really say that they've completed this journey. It is a cycle, no matter how far along you are, you will end up coming back around to the start, perhaps in a second phase, a third phase of your journey. And it's always good to go back to the start and ask those questions. Is there anything else we can be looking at? Are we looking at this data the right way? So hopefully this has kind of sparked a few questions about your data. But if there are any questions, feel free to put it into the chat.
I was nearly muted there again for a second. I remembered this time. Thank you so much, Hannah, that you could really see such valuable impact there that yourselves have at Glowmetric have really been working on with businesses. And I really enjoyed how you kind of broke up those use cases from showing what the objective really was, and having that really clear, and then the actions that followed suit. So yes, as you say, hopefully that will have sparked a few ideas and questions, and perhaps we can have a brief discussion about that. But before just a Q&A, I just wanted to signpost to a few other help and support resources. So, see. Applicants can contact the following organisations who may be able to provide additional support. So, of course, ourselves at the Clinton Leadership Institute, at the Business School, further education colleges across Northern Ireland. You may wish to also take a look at Smart Manufacturing Data Hub at University of Ulster. A variety of different local authorities. I'm sure many of you are familiar with the likes of Go Succeed, Innovate, NI, etc. And really any other support mechanisms that you identify yourselves as individual applicants, or resources that you have direct access to, such as potentially your client executives at Invest NI. But much further detail can be found on the DTFF website there, and we have that linked for you. In terms of what we offer at the Clinton Leadership Institute, I'd just like to briefly touch upon that. So we do offer customized design programs, sort of bespoke to your business needs. But as well as that, we do have executive open programs, and there's a couple of examples here on the screen. So strategic change leadership for digital transformation. That will link quite nicely into that data-driven mindset, or that digital transformation mindset, that cultural shift and change. Whereas the digital transformation and emerging technologies course may lean more into the different types of emerging technologies that the DTFF grant actually funds, and how then that links into your transformation. And finally, then, if you are more interested in the big data and the data analytics side of things that we've run through today, the Institute also offers an open course on data analytics and decision making. If you would like to listen in again to our session, just in case you missed any nuggets of gold as we chatted through things there, you can do so on the Leadership Institute's YouTube page. So feel free to scan that QR code there, and that'll take you straight to the YouTube channel. And you can catch up with a variety of different resources there too. So finally, just in case you did miss this at the start, there are a variety of webinars being run over the next couple of weeks in relation to the technologies that the DTFF fund. So please do scan that QR code up at the top of the screen if you wish to sign up for one or some or all of the following webinars. Okay, so I'll maybe just leave actually that page up there on the screen in case anybody is currently scanning that or having any difficulty in scanning it. But just to sort of throw it out to our audience, if you have any questions, or if you wish to type anything into the chat. I understand, we are maybe running over time a little bit, but certainly happy to spend a couple of minutes answering any questions if there are any. I'm just checking the chat. Yes, Chris, thank you very much. Thanks for coming along today, and Paul as well. Delighted that you found it helpful, and it was of use. So thanks for your attendance. Perhaps, guys, if there are no further questions, I'm sort of happy to close, Hannah, unless you have any questions yourself or any final thoughts. Are you happy enough?
No, I don't think there's anything from me. Thank you.
Perfect. Well, thank you, everybody. I can see your thanks coming in into the chat, and we appreciate you attending today, and wish you all the best of luck if you are applying for your DTFF application. Thank you.